Hi guys, it's been a minute. Things have been so crazy. We had Literacy Week last week, and I just want to thank everybody that participated. I was so happy to see so many kids get on and do the flip grids. It was so great to see you guys and hear your responses. I was super happy. So, that being said, I have a story for this week. So, for those of you who don't know, March is Women's History Month. And so I'm going to read a story called For the Right to Learn. Okay, this is Malala Yousafzai's story. Okay, so this is a true story, and this is written by Rebecca Langston George, and it's illustrated by James Bach. Okay, so here we go, guys. For the right to learn. Okay, this award is not just for me. It's for those forgotten children who want education. It is for those frightened children who want peace. It is for those voiceless children who want change. Okay. Malala's own education started early. Her father, Zaduin Zadian Yousafzai, ran a school in Mangora, a town surrounded by snow-capped mountains in the Swat Valley of Pakistan. From the time she could walk, she visited classes. She even pretended to teach. Malala loved school. Not all Pakistani children had Malala's opportunities. Many families couldn't afford to pay for school. Others only paid for their sons' educations. Those parents believed daughters should cook and keep house. Malala's own mother didn't learn to read or write when she was young, but Malala's father believed girls deserved the same education as boys. He encouraged Malala and her young brothers, Kushal and Atal, to study. He also let many poor children attend his school for free. Malala thrived at school. She worked hard and received many trophies and awards. Not only could she speak and write her native Pashto language, but she also spoke fluent English, Urdu, Pakistan's national language. See all of her awards? She was a very smart young lady. But Taliban leaders who controlled the area were against letting girls go to school. They declared that females should be separated from males. They wanted to outlaw education for girls. They also tried to force women to wear garments called burqas to cover their entire bodies and faces. They don't look very happy and they look scared. Members of the Taliban intimidated school leaders. One ordered Saduddin to close his school because girls and boys used the same entrance. When Malala's father refused, the Taliban threatened the teachers until some of them quit. Saduddin grew worried, but Malala wasn't. The girls of Swat aren't afraid of anyone. She was more determined than ever to succeed at school. Over the school holidays, most Pakistani women used henna to paint flowers and vines on their hands. Malala covered her hands with science formulas. See all the science formulas on her hand? They do look pretty though, right? The Taliban grew stronger every day through violence and intimidation. As their strength grew, so did the rules. Men could not shave. Women had to cover their faces. Movies were banned. Radios throughout the Swat Valley crackled with the sound of the Taliban preaching. No education for girls. Girls who attend school bring shame to their families. Fear spread through Malala's homeland. Classrooms that were once full now had many empty seats. Taliban leaders bragged on the radio about those that they had coerced. We congratulate Adadid Tareen, who has stopped going to school. Zadudian fought back, appearing on TV to stress the importance of education. Malala came with him. When a reporter asked for her opinion, she said, "How dare the Taliban take away my basic right to education?" Later, they found a letter taped to the school gate. "The school you are running is Western. You teach girls. Stop this. You will be in trouble." How scary, huh? Look at that. Threats did not frighten Malala. She and her father kept demanding equal education for girls. They spoke to clubs, wrote letters to newspapers, and called journalists. Malala warned, if this new generation is not given pens, they will be given guns by the terrorists. But the situation grew worse. Members of the Taliban began patrolling the streets with machine guns. They beat people who broke curfew. Bombs exploded in the night. Businesses that didn't follow Taliban rules were heaps of rubble by morning. Then, in December 2008, came the terrible radio announcement. All girls' schools will close starting January 15th. No girls will be allowed at school. Even before the deadline, bombs started to rain down on nearby schools as warnings. See the bombs? How scary that must have been, huh? And this wasn't that long ago, boys and girls. December 2008. That was not that long ago. But bombs could not silence Malala. The British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, wanted a girl to blog about the school closings. The girl blogger would tell firsthand how it felt to be denied an education. Fearing jail, beatings, and even bombs, all her friends refused. Malala volunteered. She borrowed her pen name, Gul Makhaya, from a Pakistan figure who had fought against British oppression long ago. Internet service and power were unreliable in Pakistan, so Gul Makhaya spoke by phone to the BBC reporter who typed her blog for the next 2 months. The blog first appeared in Urdu on January 3rd, 2009. Soon Malala's blog became popular and the BBC translated it into English. On January 14th, 2009, she blogged, "I am of the view that school will one day reopen. But while leaving, I looked at the buildings as if I would not come here again." Malala was sad but defiant. They can't stop us going to school, but they can't stop us learning. They can stop us from going to school, but they can't stop us from learning. Activists like Malala grew more and more angry. Finally, the Taliban began to allow girls who were 10 years old and younger to go to school. But Malala was 11. She and her friends left their blue school uniforms at home. Dressed in street clothes, they hid books under their shawls at home, dressed and pretended to be younger than they were. Lying about their ages was gravely dangerous. If caught, the students and their teacher would have been publicly beaten or even executed. Can you imagine? Just wanting to go to school. How sad, huh? Life grew more dangerous every day. Pakistan's army began to fight the Taliban. Gunfire and screams filled the air. No one, not even defiant schoolgirls, dared to brave the streets. In May 2009, the army announced everyone must evacuate. Cars, motorcycles, trucks, and donkey carts piled the processions. With possessions jammed the one open road. Taliban members watched from behind their machine guns as 2 million people fled the Swat Valley. Hot tears trickled down Malala's face as she stuffed a few clothes into a small bag. She reached for her books, but her mother said there was no room. Heartbroken to leave them behind, Malala prayed her books would be there when she returned. Scrambling to get out with their lives, Malala's mother, father, and brothers crowded into a neighbor's van. Malala squeezed into her friend's car. The Taliban had already tried to take her rights, her education, and her voice. Malala prayed they wouldn't come after her home. Sorry, guys. See all the people? There's Malala in the car and her parents in the car behind her, all leaving their homeland. Refugees flooded the village outside Swat Valley. The United Nations Refugee Committee opened camps filled with white tents to house people, but they quickly became overcrowded. Poor sanitation led to the spread of disease. Rumors of the Taliban infiltrating the camps sparked fear in many weary hearts. The Yousafzai family was fortunate to have relatives they could stay with, but the friends who had driven them out of Mingora were going elsewhere. With no car of their own, they walked the 16 hot, dusty miles. Malala's 12th birthday came in July, but there was no celebration, no cake, no party. In fact, no one even remembered. But Malala made a birthday wish anyway. She wished for peace. She was 12 years old. No birthday, no cake. How hard would that be for some of you, huh? When they returned home 3 months later, the fight had ended, but Mingora had changed. Shops were demolished. Gray skeletons of burned cars littered the road. The school's walls were peppered with bullet holes, but there was no sign of the Taliban. Sudidian resumed classes within days, classes for boys and classes for girls. See the girls? I think there's more girls. There's all girls in this picture. There's no boys in there. Malala was back at school, but her life would never be the same. The Taliban's effort to ban girls from school had made international headlines. Friends and neighbors had guessed she was Gul Makai. Her blog, speeches, and interviews had made Malala internationally famous. South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu nominated her for an award. Pakistan renamed its Peace Prize to the National Malala Peace Prize in her honor. By the end of 2011, Malala's life was full of TV, radio, and newspaper interviews. Her picture was everywhere. Soon Malala learned that the Taliban was not gone. Taliban leaders began to threaten her on the internet, saying she was working for the West. They announced Malala was on their hit list. The police warned the Yousafzai family to leave. But Malala refused to hide. She refused to be silenced. I wonder what's going to happen, huh? Malala's mother, Tor Pikea, feared for her daughter's safety. Though the school was a short distance from their home, Tor Pikea insisted Malala ride the school bus. Despite her fears, she was proud of her daughter. In fact, Malala inspired her mother to go to school. Tor Pikea scheduled her first reading lesson for October 9th, 2012. As Tor Pikea arrived at school for her first lesson, Malala and her friends boarded the school bus to go home. Sitting on benches under the canvas roof, they laughed and sang. Suddenly, the bus lurched to a stop. A man lifted the canvas cover. "Who is Malala?" No one spoke. The only movement was the girls' eyes darting in concern toward their friend. That was enough. The man pointed a gun at Malala. 3 shots shattered the silence. The bus driver sped Malala along with her wounded friends Shazia and Kanayat to the hospital. Hours passed in a swirl of confusion. A word spread through the streets. Journalists packed the hospitals to cover the story. Zududian's phone rang as he gave a speech to other school leaders. He hurried to the hospital, pleading the crowd, "Pray for Malala." Torpikia arrived home as neighbors poured into the house with bad news. A friend called to say Malala would be taken to another hospital by helicopter. Torpikia and her neighbors rushed to the roof to watch Malala's helicopter fly overhead. Lifting her head scarf into the wind, she prayed, "God, I entrust her to you." See the helicopter? And look at her mom giving the scarf. Hours stretched into days, but Malala scarcely noticed. Her brain swelled. As she lay unconscious, the Taliban announced the girl would not be spared, and she would be targeted again if she survived. Doctors performed surgery to reduce the swelling in her brain. Then an infection nearly killed her. Eventually, Malala was flown to a hospital in Birmingham, England, to receive more surgery and keep her safe from further attacks. News of the girl shot by the Taliban spread around the world. As the girl who had fought for her education, fought for her life, thousands of cards arrived for her. Hundreds of stuffed animals and flowers poured into the hospital. But what Malala wanted most was her school books. Doctors performed many surgeries on Malala over the next few months. Surgeons repaired her drooping eye and fixed her facial nerves so she could smile. They implanted a hearing device in her ear. She stayed in the hospital for 3 months. During the time, her school friends in Mangora kept a seat empty for her. Bullets did not silence Malala for long. On July 12, 2013, she delivered a speech before world leaders at the United Nations. She declared, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." The audience responding with a standing ovation of the girl who had fought for the right to learn. This is a real picture of Malala, and that's what she looked like, and this is more about her story. This book can be found here in the library, boys and girls, so if you want to read more about Malala, go ahead and order on the SUSD library. Thank you for listening, boys and girls. We'll see you again soon, okay? Be safe, keep your distance, and wear your mask.